up, movie buffs? Dad and Daughter Movie Reviews. In this episode, we are reviewing the Scream series. We didn't just add the Scream movies, but we added the TV series as well.
Right, not a lot of people doing that, right? We see a lot of reviews of the movies individually. Maybe somebody does a list of all the movies, but there's really not a whole lot out there of somebody including the TV series in their list of rankings. So we're going to go ahead and do that for you today. I hope you enjoy. There's obviously 6 movies so far. 7 will be coming out, and then when that does come out, against our better judgment, we'll watch it for you so we can review it. Maybe we'll just review it separate instead of redoing the list. Maybe we'll redo the list. I don't know. But we'll check that out obviously when it comes. So there's 6 movies, 3 seasons in the TV series, so 9 total. So we're going to be working down from 9, our least favorite of the series, all the way to 1, our favorite. So why don't you kick it off? What do you have in 9th place?
I have Scream, the TV series, season 3. Not much to say about this one. If you want to do a review of everything, you should watch it to get like your opinion on it, but I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I'm with you. A lot of wokeism, a lot of like virtue signaling and all that kind of stuff. They really kind of took it in a real political direction, you know, regardless of how you feel about President Trump, they kind of go there and all these kind of things. So it's just like, I don't watch movies to get into that stuff. I watch movies to escape from that kind of stuff. So I don't have to think about the craziness of what's going on, you know, in our world, in the United States, with the president, the ex-president. I don't want to get into all that when I'm watching movies. I don't want to get into a bunch of virtue signaling and stuff like that. I just want to watch something to kind of take my mind off of all that. And when you bring that into my TV screen and into my face, I'm not a huge fan of that. So I also agree. I have Scream TV series in last place, season 3, because I just thought it was really terrible. Other than Tony Todd making an appearance in the first episode, just an absolute train wreck. And I think most people will agree it's the worst thing with Scream's name attached to it. What do you have in 8th?
I have Scream 6, the movie. I didn't like how they killed Gale Weathers. She was honestly, out of Sidney Prescott, Doofy, and Gale Weathers, I would probably put her at the top. I really like her, and I think her ability to just come back and live, like from getting shot, from getting stabbed, from getting shot, from getting stabbed, she's alive again, like Sidney Prescott. I just, spoiler alert, in Scream 5, I didn't like how they killed Doofy, and then they killed Gale. So I'm guessing if they make a Scream 8, if
or
not,
even 7.
Yeah, in 7, they might kill Sidney Prescott.
Sidney might go, huh? I agree with you. 8th place on my list, Scream 6, the worst movie of the series, no question about it. Typically, when somebody tries to make a different, you know, movie or take things in a different direction or try something different, typically I'm a fan of that. Not always, but typically. And for this, in this instance, I just didn't like it. I didn't think it was great. You know, they tried to make it like they were breaking new ground and doing something different, and at the end, just ended up being the same old boring kind of thing. No real shockers. I kind of had an indication of at least one of the killers. You know, obviously being the sheriff. I kind of had him pegged in the movie. Didn't necessarily see that the brother and sister of, you know, the killer in part 5 was gonna, you know, come and be involved in all that, but it still didn't blow my skirt up. So, you know, bringing Kirby back from part 4, I was like, it didn't have the hit or the impact that I thought they maybe were going for. Obviously, killing, you know, we think Gale Weathers.
Really hope not.
Just again, the more main characters and old characters they start killing off in this series, the worse these movies get, the worse this series gets, and it's going to come to a head either in part 7 or maybe part 8, in which it's just going to be not worth watching or even really talking about anymore, in my opinion. So, what do you got in 7th?
I have Scream 5. I have mixed feelings about Jenna Ortega. She voices over one of my favorite animated characters ever. And so that makes me like her a little bit, but then they put her in this, and I don't know. She didn't give me like the scared little sister vibe.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you just said. I'm not a huge fan of Jenna Ortega personally. I don't think she was. I think it was just kind of like, oh, she's the hot name right now. She kind of looks like she could play the part, so let's just throw her in. That's kind of what it felt like, kind of like a lazy pick. I don't. She doesn't excite me. There's nothing that her character brings that I'm like, oh, this adds extreme value to this series. So it's to me, this is where the series died, right? When Dewey died, I mean that was really it for me for like my real interest in this series. I obviously watched part 6, but I didn't watch it when it first came out. I took time to watch it. It wasn't high on my list. I didn't care, and I thought it was a terrible movie. And I thought Scream 5 was pretty bad as well. And again, when you start killing off all these characters and there's really no one left, I mean the series dies. And so I don't know. It's okay, not great. What do you have at 6?
I have Scream 4. I don't like. I think they did a really good job of hiding who the killer was in this movie. Nobody expected it to be
Joe Roberts' character. Yeah.
I was like, whoa. And then she started like thrashing herself around and like hitting herself to make it look like she had been beaten up and stabbed. And she had like no fear at all to do this. She slammed herself into a glass table, stabbed herself in the arm just so she could get popularity. And then she ended up dying.
Yeah, but I mean, I think I also have Scream 6 or Scream 4 and 6th on my list as well. I mean, I understand the angle. I understand like the influencer, the kids wanting to be popular just literally for nothing. Nowadays, the attitude that most kids have. So I understand that angle of it. And I'm a huge Joe Roberts fan. I really like her. Her dad, Eric Roberts, is one of my favorite actors of all time. I think he's probably the most underrated actor that really he's probably ever walked this planet. I mean, he's a tremendous talent. Her aunt is obviously Julia Roberts, so comes from a pretty stellar kind of acting family, and I think she's fantastic. Like sometimes when these kids come, into acting, and I grew up watching their parents or whatever, sometimes I feel like they're just spoiled and entitled and kind of have just gotten to where they're at in life based upon their parents. But I don't feel that way about her. I feel like she's a superbly talented individual. Scream Queens is one of my favorite recent TV shows. I thought she was awesome in that. So when I saw she was cast in this, I was extremely excited about it. Hayden Panettiere, or however you say that, I obviously like her. I like Kirby in this. Macaulay Culkin's younger brother is in this as well. And obviously having Dewey and Gale and Sydney kind of back for one last big run. I like this movie. I think it's actually a really good movie. I kind of debate between this and the next movie on my list kind of being where they're at on the list, and I think maybe it's just a little bit because of nostalgia and kind of what I grew up watching, as to why maybe Scream 6 or Scream 4 is at 6 and maybe not 5. But I like this movie. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought this was the last good movie of the series. What do you have at 5?
I have Scream 3. I think it's better than the movies that I put below it, but it's not like my favorite, I think the premise is interesting.
Like Cotton Weary gets killed in this one right off the bat. You're like, oh shit. And then Roman ends up being Sidney Prescott's long-lost brother when Maureen Prescott, her mom, went off to Hollywood years before and had kind of a different life and had this kid that she didn't know about. Kind of a cool little angle. No, I'm not necessarily saying I believe it as much, but you can see how it's kind of believable. I also have Scream 3 at 5 on my list as well. It's a good movie. I don't think it's obviously as good as the first two, but it's a good movie. I really do enjoy this movie. I think the cast is really cool. The premise of it, taking place on a soundstage where they're filming the Stab movie, and Sydney goes in and kind of sees her house and Stu's house, and kind of that scene where the killer's chasing her on set, and she kind of knows how to navigate the house because it was her house, and how she would open her closet door and stick her bedroom door behind it so it couldn't open in the first one. She reuses that in this one to kind of throw it back to the original. I thought this was cool. The scariest scene in this for me personally is when Sydney's mom, Maureen Prescott, is talking to her through the window in a dream, and then she comes up to the window and she looks creepy. That was actually a pretty creepy scene for me in this movie. But yeah, I mean it's middle of the pack as far as the movies go. But yeah, still a pretty good movie. So what do you have it for?
I have Scream 2.
Okay.
I like this movie a lot. I think it was better than 3, but I guess I was confused at some parts, which just adds to the horror movie. And when you get confused in horror movies, that makes it better, because usually that's what they're trying to do. And it just makes the whole experience of watching the movie better. And I like this one.
Kind of throws you off a little bit, right? You don't know what's going on. You think it's this person, then you don't, then you do. So at number 4 for me, I have Scream, the TV series, season 2. I like the Scream TV series, at least the first 2 seasons. I thought it was cast really well. I thought, when they first announced it coming out, I was like, ugh,
How dare
I don't know
they?
how they're going to do this as a TV series. I don't know how they're going to do this without Sidney Prescott. I don't know how, not having anybody in the TV show, I don't know how this is going to fly. And then I ended up really, really enjoying it. I thought each episode was interesting. I didn't think there was one episode where I was like, oh, that was boring, or I didn't get what I kind of wanted to get out of it. Spoiler alert for this one. Kieran ends up being the killer who was working with Piper in the beginning, and they were kind of lovers or whatnot, and so he ends up being the killer, and then he ends up going to jail, and they have a Halloween special that kind of follows this season 2 ending, which is a really cool episode as well. But overall, I mean, I was pretty impressed with it, and to say that I was impressed with it after having the notion going in that I probably wasn't going to like it and was going to be dog shit, is obviously, speaks to how good it was put together. So what do you have at number 3 on your list?
I have the first Scream movie.
Okay.
I think it was the best movie overall. I guess it's kind of obvious that the TV shows, I like the TV show better. But I think that it was the best movie in the Scream franchise that was made, and it was usually the first movie is my favorite, except for Friday the 13th or Halloween maybe. And I guess since it was an original, I guess that also adds to it, because I usually like the originals more than part 2s. The Inside Out movie that's coming out, I don't really want to watch it, because the OG is the OG, and I grew up on the OG, so I guess it was the best movie, and I liked how they introduced the characters, and I like how the characters met, and I think the movies progressively got worse. I'm not saying that they were all terrible, but they just progressively got worse. And I also have something out about the movies, how Gale and Dewey just go back and forth and back and forth, and you don't know when you're going to a movie if they're going to be together or apart again, and they usually are apart, then they get back together, and then they're apart, and then they get back together. So I guess it was just persistent.
Number 3 on my list is going to be Scream, the TV series, season 1. I really enjoyed this one. I think I just like the characters better. and the introduction to the characters and trying to kind of figure out how each of these characters fits in each other's lives. It's kind of like the Breakfast Club, right? You have, the popular girl, you have the rich girl, you have, the athlete, you have, the nerd, you have, the lesbian, right? The friend, you have, boyfriend, girlfriend going back and forth. I thought the way they introduced all these characters and kind of the complexities of their relationships and whatnot, and kind of kept me kind of guessing as to what was going on. And what was cool about this series is when you first start watching it, there might be characters you really like and characters you really hate. But then, like, maybe 3, 4, 5 episodes later, something you start going, wow, I actually really like that character, as opposed to, thinking this character's a douchebag or thinking this one's a spoiled brat or whatever. So I liked that it kind of kept me guessing, and it was like an ebb and flow of how I felt about the characters. I just like this one better than season 2. Not that season 2 was bad or anything. I just like this one a little bit better. So for me, number 3, Scream TV series season 1. Getting into number 2 on your list is
Scream TV series season 1.
Okay.
I like how they introduce the characters, and it kind of gives a Breakfast Club vibe. I think my favorite character is probably Noah. My favorite guy character is for sure Noah, and then I think my favorite girl character is probably Brooke. But like at the beginning, I was like,
you're
who
like,
is that? I don't like her.
Brooke.
I literally hate her.
She's
Like, I can't wait for her to die.
I can't wait for
her to die. And then when she almost, spoiler alert, dies in the freezer at the end, I was like, no, you can't do this to me. Yeah. I also didn't like Jake at the beginning, and I ended up liking Jake a lot too.
I would say those are the 2 characters for me that I didn't really like when watching it, and then ended up liking them. And also, real quick, the kills in this series are cool. They're unique. Oh, yeah. They're done really well. Like, each episode keeps you wanting to watch the next one. They're not boring, and I think that's a testament to how well it was. Like I said, how well it was put together.
Yeah. I guess I liked, my favorite guy character in the whole show was Noah, but I think my girl character switched around sometimes, because like I did kind of like Piper too. I liked Brooke and Piper. I kind of had a problem with Emma sometimes. Felt like she was a little bit stuck up.
Audrey, right?
Audrey, and Zoe. I really liked Zoe. I had a little bit of a like meh moment with Riley. But I think my least favorite girl character in the whole show was probably, to be honest, Emma. I guess she's the main character and you're like supposed to like her, but I don't know. She just gave off this stuck-up brat vibe to me. Like everything was about her, and she knew it was about her, and she continued to make it about her.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think they do a really good job of making you go through this like hate, love kind of relationship with all the characters, and to keep it interesting and stuff like that, and keep you guessing, and not spell out everything in the first 1 or 2 episodes. I mean, I think that's really hard to do. There's a reason they say you shouldn't make, horror movies, TV shows, and Scream did it. I mean, it's going to be a hard act for anybody who tries to recreate something like this, whether it's Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, whatever. It's going to be hard for them to kind of replicate what Scream did.
Right. Like, I think also what he just said, it's hard. You can't make horror slasher movies, TV shows. They actually make that reference in the show, and it's like you're actually in a slasher TV show right now. So.
Okay, and number 2 on my list is going to be Scream 2. The follow-up to the original. I thought this was an awesome movie. I thought they did a good job picking up where the first one left off, keeping it interesting. Is it as good as the first one? No, it's not, but it is still a really good movie and the second best entry in the series, in my opinion. Sydney's off at college this time. Has a boyfriend. Is it the same as the original, where her boyfriend's the killer? Randy's back in this one. Dewey, Gale, everybody, is really kind of back in this one. Randy obviously gets killed in the van, which sucked. That was that was kind of like Dewey for me. I just like it felt unnecessary. I didn't want to see it happen, but it did. This is put together really well, and the twist at the end to me is a little bit more believable than like 3, 4, 5, 6. In it being Billy's mom who ran away, because they discussed that in the original. So there's a heavy emphasis on Billy telling Sid that, you know, when my mom left, you know, I just had to accept that's the way that it was. And she's like, my mom, you know, my mom died. She didn't run away, blah, blah, blah. It's not the same thing. So there's an emphasis on that story. And then it kind of comes to play in the second one. And then Mickey, the crazy film, you know, fanatic friend, is the one that helped get this whole thing together to kind of make this second, you know, act happen, which I thought was done really, really well. I again, it's not as good as the original, but still a really, really good movie. Obviously, like, you know, having Sarah Michelle Gellar in this one, having Joshua Jackson play a bit part in this, I thought was really cool. They were really kind of hot at that time, doing Buffy and Dawson's Creek and all that. So really cool to kind of throw them in there, even though they had bit parts. Still thought it was really cool. And the number one on your list is
Scream TV series season 2.
Okay.
This one had a lot in it, and I think my favorite characters are probably in season 2. I guess I was kind of mad that they, like, in this one, I also had characters who I didn't like at the beginning, and then ended up liking, like, Starvo. I guess I felt like they replaced Jake with him, and it made me mad.
Kind of, yeah.
And then he ended up being good. And then I was like...
What about Kieran? What were your thoughts about Kieran from the beginning?
I liked Kieran at the beginning, and then I was like, I'm so fishy about this. He's, like, being mean. He's, like, selling her out about Jake's phone, and then he's selling her out to the cop about everything, and then his cousin is, like, being so nice to her, and then I was like, he's a bit of a creep, but, like, at least he's nice to her, and then I was like, wait, he might be the killer. Spoiler alert, he was not. It was Karen.
Yeah.
I had a feeling, with the fact that he was in love with Piper confused me. I was like, what? How did... Piper just seems so much older than Kieran. It confused me, but I liked the storyline in this one. I think in the episode where, like, everybody thought Noah was gonna die made me really sad. I was like, no, please, you can't kill him, no.
Right.
But I guess.
That's your favorite entry of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And obviously for me, number one is the original Scream. You know, the slasher genre, you know, in the mid to late 70s and all through the 80s, what was huge. Like it was a huge genre for horror. Like people were making low budget slashers, turning a huge profit on them, you know, ripping off, you know, Halloween, ripping off Psycho, all that kind of thing. And then there for a while, it kind of started dying down. You know, yeah, you had, you know, Candyman, and yeah, you had like, you know, the like Halloween 6 and all that kind of stuff, but they didn't really have the impact that things like Friday the 13th or A Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween had, obviously on the horror genre. But that all changed when Scream came out. Scream really brought back the slasher to the mainstream, and really was like, Scream was like my generation's Halloween. I remember seeing it in a movie theater with my best friend and walking out going, that was awesome. I was like thoroughly impressed with the entire movie. I really liked it, and obviously we see what it is kind of built into, and how big this series and this character of Ghostface have become. And that's all from the original. That's all from the mastermind Wes Craven. Obviously, you know, one of the greatest to ever do it. You could argue the greatest. I think with, you know, Carpenter and Hitchcock, I mean, I think you could probably say, you know, 1, 2, 3, you're not getting a bad pick out of any of those guys. But this was the one that really, I remember going, damn, okay, like this is a different thing than what I've seen the last couple years. And obviously it's spawned, you know, I Know What You Did Last Summer. It spawned urban legend. It spawned The Faculty. It really made Halloween H2O a big thing. Idle Hands, Disturbing Behavior, Final Destination, like all that late 90s push that we had all these really, really great and unique horror movies, all spawned from the success of Scream. So this one will always have a special place for me. I think it is an excellent movie from start to finish. I think it's cast perfectly. It's done just off the charts. The one thing I think that really set this movie up to be successful was the shocking beginning, right? When you're advertising Drew Barrymore in this movie and you're putting her on movie posters and she's doing interviews and all this stuff, you're thinking, dude, all right, this is going to be an awesome horror movie starring Drew Barrymore. And then the first 8 to 10 minutes, she's killed in horrific fashion. I mean, you were just like, holy shit, all bets are off. Like, if that just happened, nobody's safe. We don't know what's going to happen. And that really set the bar, and it shocked everybody. And that was Drew Barrymore's idea. She said, I'll come on and do this, but I want you to kill me in the first 10 minutes of the movie, because it'll set the audience off to feeling uneasy and like, what the hell is happening the whole movie. And it worked brilliantly. This is one of the best horror movies ever made. If I was to make a top 10 horror list of the greatest horror movies that I think an individual who has never seen horror movies should watch, Scream would be on that list for me. So that's how highly I hold this movie. I think it's one of the best ever, and is, to me, easily the best entry of the entire series.
Yeah. I guess when we started watching the Scream series, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like it that much. And then I watched the movie and I was like, okay. And then we didn't finish them for a while, and then we were like, hey, we should finish these. And we did, and I'm like, okay. Yep, it's right up there with Friday the 13th and Halloween. Right up there with that.
It is. It's one of the best ever, and obviously from the brilliant mind of Wes Craven. He brought us Last House on the Left, Swamp Thing, obviously Nightmare on Elm Street, creating Freddy Krueger, who was probably the greatest horror villain. And when I say that, I'm not saying that in popularity better than like Freddy or Michael or Jason or anything like that, but I'm just the concept and the creation of that character coming to get you in your dreams. It's just nothing more terrifying than that, because at night when you're alone by yourself is when you're the most vulnerable, scared, or feel the most vulnerable. So the creation of that character was just amazing, and he did it again with Ghostface. He hit it out of the park. So that's our list. That's how we feel about it. Let us know in the comment section below how you feel about these movies, how you feel about the series. If you could create a list, or if you did create a list, what does your list look like? How does it compare to our list? Is it closer to my list? Is it closer to her list? Is it your own list that's a little bit of combination of both? Let us know in the comment section below. Give the video a thumbs up. We appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel. We always appreciate that. So hit the little bell notification so you know when we're putting out new content for you, obviously the movie fan to watch. So that's going to do it for us here on this one. We're going to wrap this up. And until the next one, we are out.
Now you gotta die. Those are the rules.
Just pretend it's all a scary movie, say. How do you think it's gonna end?
Oh, this is the greatest part. You're gonna love this. We got a surprise for you, Sydney. Yeah, you're gonna love this one. It's a Scream, baby. Hold on a sec. I'll be right back.